Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you how I made a Chocoflan. I saw someone else make this recipe and I had never seen it or heard of it before, and I wanted to try it out, and I figured, yeah, sure, I could do this, so I gave it a whirl. I started with a bundt pan, as you see here, and I slathered this sucker up with some Crisco. The pan itself is already non-stick, but it apparently needed more. In the instructions that I saw, it said to use a like a spray, like a Pam spray or something, which I don't own and I wasn't going to go buy. So I figured, oh yeah, some Crisco, that'll work. And I put it on really thick, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I went back, as you can see, and I'm like kind of taking out the chunks to make it more of a nicely lightly greased pan. Turns out it was a mistake, guys, okay? So if you don't have any nonstick spray, you'll want to slather the thing with your Crisco. Okay, once you get it nice and greasy, then you're going to add a 1/4 cup of caramel. The recipe I saw said to use an authentic type of a Spanish caramel. And where I am in the hills of Pennsylvania, you don't really get authentic things like Spanish caramel very easily. So I just went to the grocery store and found some caramel topping in the ice cream section. So that's what I used. I poured in my 1/4 cup all around, as you see, and now I'm adding chocolate cake. You can use any kind of chocolate cake you want. I've heard people use box mixes. That's actually what the recipe said to use. I made my own chocolate cake that I like to make, and it turned out fine. So once you get your cake in there, now for the next layer, I'm going to add a can of evaporated milk into my blender. I'm going to add a 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk to my blender. Already it's looking very lovely. And I don't know if you guys make your own coffee creamer, but I do make my own. And so far this is exactly how it is. You add a can of condensed milk to a can of evaporated milk, mix it together, makes a great sweetener and creamer for your coffee. A little homemade tip there for you. Now to the blender we're going to add 4 eggs. I'm using just regular old large eggs. I always have to crack them into another cup because I always make shell crumbs and it's annoying. But anyway, 4 eggs in, a big old splash of vanilla. Put the lid on and blend it together till it's nice and creamy. Then you very gently and carefully pour it on top of your chocolate layer. Now when you bake it, if you're familiar with this recipe, it's going to kind of switch places with the chocolate. So you end up with the flan on top and the chocolate on the bottom. It's really cool. But anyway, I have a big old piece of tin foil that I am also greasing up with Crisco, and I am going to wrap it over top of my bundt pan there. And I was nervous about how full it was. I was afraid it was going to overflow, and when it baked, it did rise up and push against the foil because I checked on it, but it didn't overflow. It worked okay. Now, next step, kind of weird, but this is what you do. You're going to put it into another pan. I have a big old cake pan there. And you're going to fill that pan with like 1.5 inches to 2 inches of hot water. While this was going on, I had water simmering on the stove. That's why it's super steamy there. And put the bundt pan inside the center of it there. So it's going to bake in your oven now, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for about an hour, hour and 20 minutes. You got to check it. Mine cooked a little faster because it's a smaller bundt pan. And when it comes out clean, you're going to set it on the counter, let it cool for an hour. Put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours after that. Then you take it out, remove the foil, and in theory you flip it over and it's like la la. But because I was so young and naive and foolish, I took away that extra Crisco, remember? And it was like, no. So there's me banging and slamming, and eventually it came out. I had to use a knife to kind of slide down the sides, which means, as you can see, some of the chocolate got pushed into the flan. However, it did work. It did come out, and it worked. I was so happy with it. And it made the separate layers, and the layers were lovely and formed, and it tasted really good. Like it's like the flan was kind of sweet enough to take the place of icing. It didn't like need anything else, and the chocolate was so moist and rich. Very tasty. Definitely worth trying. So I hope you found my silly little video here helpful. Please like and subscribe because I find that helpful. I've got lots of other videos, so please check those out. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.